communicate with us during the class. This is Tuesday, Tondo together, meaning we are meeting in the round. Tondo is a art term from the Renaissance period, and artists would paint in a round shape, maybe the Madonna and Child, maybe something out of marble, and it would be like a little epitaph or a piece of beautiful wood or stone that might hang over your mantelpiece or inside of your front gate. So I just like the word Tondo because I kind of think about round and how we're meeting together, especially during this time when we can't be face to face, but we can still be together doing what we love. And I'm going to talk today about an artist called Henri Matisse. And he tried to join a group of artists to be in the round, right? He went to Paris and he hung out with a bunch of artists that were doing some new cool stuff. And here is one of his paintings called A Red Room, because it definitely is a red room. And as you can tell, while this is an acrylic and well, this is oils, he was drawing things pretty flat. They don't look very dimensional, right? So his objects, tables and chairs, they just look more flat. And then he went on to do this one, and it's, guess what? It's called A Red Room again, so 1908. Look how simple the shape of the table, just a round table. Look at his window shape, a simple little rectangle. And then look at what he's doing. What his signature piece really is pattern. He loves pattern. So I think it'll be fun for us today to look at something trying to make it a little more dimensional than so flat and adding pattern. And that's something we haven't done in our little sessions together. So in this next hour, I'm going to walk you through it step by step. Don't think this is difficult. In fact, I'm going to show you one that I did, and this one is out of acrylic paint, but we're going to use watercolor today. If you are using acrylics, great. If you're just wanting to do a pencil drawing, colored pencil, pastels, the process is the same. It's just how the medium reacts is going to be a little different. But you can see what I'm talking about, where we're going to make the room. So I'm going to show you this line that's happening in perspective behind us. And then we're going to make that round table so it looks more dimensional than the one in Matisse's Red Room that just looks like an oval. If you draw just an oval, that'll be fine too. And then I'm going to walk you through the fishbowl. I'm calling this the fishbowl drawing. And I added a little kitty cat. And I think it's fun because when I was studying his Red Room painting, I saw in the very bottom a little cat and dog. The more you look at something, you'll find little interesting tidbits inside a painting. That's kind of that element of surprise. So I kind of like the cat staring at the fish going round and round and wondering how he's going to get there. Okay, so I'm going to tilt my camera down. And because I'm working in watercolor and it would drip if I was standing at the easel. So I'm going to tilt it down and we will just get started because it's that fun. All right, so here's what my working surface. And I am going to actually tilt it upside down for a second. So bear with me here. I'm going to flip it and 180 degrees so it looks right side up to you. Okay, so there is Matisse's lovely looking room. Yellow room, we'll call it a yellow room. It's gonna be a red room. This is gonna be fun. All right, so what we're gonna do is start by drawing. I'm gonna use a blue watercolor pencil. You could use a pencil, just draw lightly because you can't erase it with watercolor if that's what you're using. If you're using acrylic paint, you're going to be able to actually draw paint right over it. So we're going to set up the room perspective. A perspective is just how you look at something. I'm going to put a dot about a third of the way up on my paper and about a third of the way over. So there's a dot sitting right there. This is the bottom of my paper. This is the top. So this is going to be my wall, and this is going to be my floor. All right. I'm going to draw a straight line. Don't have to be perfect. When I say straight, I mean, how many people's baseboards are really straight? Honestly, if you stopped and measured, you would realize they're not that straight. And we're not trying to be perfect. We're using watercolor today. All right, now from the dot, I'm going to draw an angle all the way to the corner of my paper. Okay, that might be really hard for you to see, so I'm just going to trace it again so you can follow what I'm doing. Okay, so now this is my floor. I could label it floor. You don't have to do that. This is floor. This is all going to be wall, but my wall has two sides. So from the same dot, you're going to go straight up. See how simple this is? We haven't done perspective yet in this class. So if you've been joining me for the past few months, we've been doing a variety of different exercises, and I like to keep expounding and using your progress to further your artist abilities. So this is great. This is, I'm using a 1 point, right? But this isn't going to truly be a 1 point perspective because things are not going to truly go lining up to that thing. But it is giving me a perspective of two sides of the room. Okay, so I have a wall here, and I have a wall here, and I have a floor. All right, now we're going to block in the table, the round table. So you can see my round table over here. It is an oval shape. All right, and it's going to be about right overlapping my floor line. So I'm going to draw an oval shape. I'm going to draw heavy. Please do not draw heavy on your paper because you don't want to spend time erasing anything. So see how I just went right over my trifecta here. Okay. Now are you ready to do some more? Let's do the fishbowl because the fishbowl is going to be sitting on top of the table, and it has the same round shape or oval shape as the table. So I want you to make a fishbowl. I want you to make like a canoe shape. This will be the bottom of my fishbowl. Because remember, we're looking at it in perspective. So I made from my point, I made a little lazy C. We'll call it a C that fell over on its back, right? Now I'm going to make another part to the C up higher. Your bowl can be as big, tall, fat as you want, but this C matches this C. Now I'm going to connect the C's, or lazy C's because they're falling over. I'm going to connect them. Okay, do you see that? If you're painting this, you could be just using your paintbrush and painting the lines as well. Now I'm going to do the rim of the fishbowl. This time it's going to be an opposite lazy C. So the C is in the opposite direction. Like that. There's my bowl. Maybe Matisse should have followed along with us. If he could. Maybe he didn't want to do things in 3D. Maybe he wanted them to be more flat. If you want yours to be flat, you can be flat. Now let's give the table a thickness. All right, so what I'm going to do is draw another lazy C under my table and stop short of the end of the table. Because guess what? I'm going to make two little verticals. We're just designing, we're putting in all the pieces. Putting in all the pieces. Okay, so now I have the bowl shape. I've got the table shape. All right, let's go back to the bowl, and we need to put a water line in there. because the fish don't want to escape. So we need to put a water line. So we're going to make another lazy C just below the lip of the bowl. And I'm going to make another upside down lazy C inside the bowl. So this becomes water. And this is air right in between there. We have to establish this because working in watercolor, we can't erase it. We can't go back. So what's going to happen is when we paint the wall and we paint this wall, the things that are seen, the wall seen behind the glass is going to look lighter, right? Because you're looking at it through glass. So we needed to know where the bowl's going to go. If you're working in acrylic or pastels, you're going to be able to add white easily to your wall color, but we don't have white when we're working in watercolor. It's not that easy. So I do have my watercolor sitting over here, just a simple pan that Crayola makes. And I have a few brushes. You don't need to have a whole lot of brushes handy. I do have some napkins. You need to have some napkins handy for sure. And I have a yucky cup, you know, where I know not to drink out of that one. That just becomes my little art cup. I also keep a little spray bottle. That way I can just spray my paints without using my dirty water that I've been using to clean with. So maybe in the next few weeks or whatever, you find a little spray bottle you can use that you can keep your paints wet. I also put on the list, I don't know if you noticed it or not, but to have a few oil pastels. So I like combining oil sometimes with my watercolors. You could use crayons. If you have a little box of crayons handy, you might want to use those. So that was optional. That was on the list. Don't have to have it. But what I wanted to show you is I could use this to actually resist the paint. So if I wanted to, before I paint my wall, and if I want to add these really cool looking designs, I can't make that in white, right? So I would draw it with my oil pastel, and when I paint the red and the purple, it's going to resist my white line. So that's what's nice about having a little bit of oil handy. Oil and water, they don't love each other. Just don't love each other. Just one of those chemistry lessons. Okay, so if you don't have one of those, you don't have to. You could use a white crayon. Crayon's made out of wax. And it will resist as well. So if I want to do just what I did in this painting, I am going to draw a couple of little hearts that you can barely see, or flowers. Matisse loved to put in pattern in his background. He should have been a fashion designer as far as I'm concerned. It's really cool looking at all of his designs that he would put onto ladies' clothing. He really picked up on that. Okay, and on this side, I'm going to do a squiggly line. If you don't have a white pastel, you're just going to paint up to a line. So go ahead and just draw yourself lightly a couple of designs, simple designs, just something really simple. And that way you can paint right up to the line and not go over it. Okay, we're ready to start. I'm not going to bother with putting in table legs right now because I'm just going to do a floor, and my brown is going to go right over my floor color. Let's get started. So I'm going to use a 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch flat watercolor brush. I call these my wash brushes because I can get color on pretty quickly. So you need to decide what you want the wall to be. Do you want it to be red or yellow? It's going to be a all red room like Mr. Matisse. I'm going to make this side yellow just like my sample over here. So I'm going to dip into the yellow. And I'm just going to start painting the background. If it's too intense for you, if that yellow is too intense, You can always dirty it up with a tiny bit of brown or the opposite of yellow. If you get it inside of your hearts or your flowers, just dab it quickly, right? That's what you have your little napkin there for. I'm going to kind of keep mine bright. I love color, and so to me, this just adds to it. And if you get inside your little flowers or hearts, that's okay. This is so fun. I missed you guys. We took a little week off, and that way I could think about some more classes coming up. So we're going to continue through November. I'm so excited about that. Not as many. We're not going to have as many classes. We're not going to do the Saturdays. It'll just be Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that's new news for you. You can also join in with one of my workshops that I have going on if you so desire. And we get into a little bit more detail in those workshops. And those happen working at your own pace throughout the week, and I critique you as you go. And you can watch my videos. All right, here we go. So I have a little background going on here. I can add some more to it later. With watercolor, you want to just kind of keep it a layer at a time. If you keep trying to brush over and over this, you're going to rub a hole into your paper. Your paper starts to break down. So I'm just going to let that sit. I'm going to go over here to the red side. All right. So I'm going to dip into some red. And I'm going to put some red in here. Oh, that's going to look really cool. You can see it resisting against the crayon. Oil pastel. It acts like a little dam. And you're asking me why, or maybe you're not asking me why, but why did she not paint inside the bowl yet? Because I want to talk to you guys about that. Okay, so I'm just staying this side of the oil pastel. And I think over here, I'm going to do another line of red. I'm going to alternate red and purple. I can come back and do another pass at it later. And this one's going to kind of go off the page. All right, now let's go back to the bowl. Remember I told you that things inside glass need to be lighter? Well, they do. So what I want you to do, maybe you have a little foam plate, maybe you have a little tray like I do in my watercolor here. If you ever wondered what this is for, it's perfect. You could take these out and use the whole tray to be mixing with. You can use the lid to be mixing it with right over here. So you're going to take, I'm going to do it on the white part because it's easier for you to see on the camera than on the clear part. And I'm going to put a little yellow right there. And I'm going to water it down a lot, or you're going to spray it. Because I want inside the bowl to be lighter. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and paint inside the bowl. Don't go above the water line just yet. Mine's turning a little green because I got a blue watercolor pencil I was using. Oh well, I have dirty water from my fish. Okay, and I need to do the same thing up here. Now you're seeing it. Now that we've added color, you can see my blue lines. And now I'll put it in there. Okay, so it's a little bit different yellow than what's in the background. Now I have a sliver of it in that I can see the red back there. So I need to get a little red and water that down. And put that over here. If it starts to run with your other colors, just have a napkin handy. Okay, so it's a lot lighter with the glass. It's just diffused. The light's diffused. Now I can come back later when this is dry and add another layer of red. So I'm gonna wait because my fish bowl is really wet. And if I keep trying to paint up next to it, I'm gonna get more red in my fish bowl. All right, let's go back over here to the fun little doodads on the wall. Yay! Purple hearts. I like some purple hearts. Painting in my little spaces there. If you wanted to switch to a smaller brush, you can at this point, just to do these little spots. And you can see my oil resisting the paint. I don't care if it gets on my table, because this is going to be brown, and brown's made up of all the colors. So I'm not really concerned. I did tape the edges. You see I taped the edges down so that I wouldn't be shifting my paper a lot while I'm teaching you guys. It stays in one spot. But there are times when I would keep it untaped and so I could tilt it and get the water to flow different directions. Just make sure that when you tape it, it's not taped to the table. I have it put on a piece of cardboard back here. You can see it. All right, now what are we going to do with the floor? What color? Well, you can tell I did primaries over here. I did yellow, red, and blue. So I think I'm just going to stick to those clear colors this time around. So you can see it. All right, so let's put some blue. How about some blue down there? When I do my next pass on the floor, I could add some purple or some green to it and dirty up the floor a little bit. Because right now it looks too crisp and clean for a floor in 1908, or my floor today would not be this clear. Moving around the canvas, I needed to give this time on the wall before I put the purple in there. And I'm painting the floor in the direction that the floorboards would be laid. So my floorboards are going left to right, especially if I want to add a few planks and nails. That's what my next workshop is going to be about, drawing all these architectural elements. So you want to draw in the direction of the grain, the way something would grow, or the way it was planed. All right, I'm going to go back over here to the wallpaper. Put that fun purple in there. You can tell the watercolor is not as vibrant as my acrylic painting, but it can be. You could go buy different tube paints and you can keep adding layer upon layer upon layer and less water and more tint and get it very vibrant. Okay, I'm just adding in. In fact, I think I'm going to switch to my smaller brush because it's harder for me to get in there. I hope you're enjoying yourselves, making a little interior room. We've done everything from flowers to eagles, cats. And we'll do an interior room. The rest of our time, the rest of our week, we're going to be meeting Thursday night and Saturday morning, by the way. And Rosie will have up the registration for Saturday morning. Thursday's already up there. We're going to be working on trees. So that's something we have not been touching on, but we will this time. Okay, I'm going to add my second layer on top of my heart shapes over here. See, just by adding the same color twice, it's going to deepen it without having rubbed over it 1,000 times the first pass. Be delicate with your paper. It has time to absorb the moisture and then receive the second coat. If you have any questions at any time, just add them to the chat. Rosie will speak them out loud to me, and she doesn't have to use your name. You know, you don't have to. You can be anonymous. But believe me, sometimes when you're asking that question, somebody else was already wanting to ask that question, and you were just brave enough to do it. Okay, so I've got my plan here, my interior room. I'm so excited. See all of you working really hard. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. Okay, so at this point, we're going to think about our fish. My fish bowl is dry. I'm touching it right now. Okay, is it going to hold up? So I want to do my little goldfish. That would have been all you would have been able to find in Paris to stick in your little bowl. You wouldn't have had a big tank since you were living in a tiny little flat. In fact, it's true today. You'd be living in a small little environment. And orange, we'll make some little gold or orange fish because the fish color will lend itself to the yellow because orange is made from yellow and red. So that will be good to use orange as our fish color. But if you want to have a blue fish, that's fine. That will work. Okay, so here we go with the fish. So how do you draw a fish? Well, he's going to have a oval body and a triangle tail. If you talk to yourself about shape, you can draw anything. Simple as that. And how many fish do you want? Do you want one fish, two fish, blue fish? I guess that would be Dr. Seuss's preference. He was quite the artist too. And did very simple drawings. All right, so I'm gonna have a little fish here. He's kind of going crooked. I like him kind of diving up from the bottom. And maybe we'll have one surfacing up here. So I'm gonna do another oval. See, you got several times you get to practice your fish. So cute. And he gets a little triangle tail. I've got little 3. I like odd numbers. So maybe I'll just stick with the 3. 3 fish in my little bowl. I'm gonna let them dry because I haven't added any shadows yet to them, or eyeballs or whiskers or whatever you want to put on them. I'm gonna let those dry. Now I'm gonna move to the table because we hadn't touched, this is the only area we've not touched thus far. So right here, you might have brown in your palette like I do. I have a brown. If you do not have a brown, you can make brown. So I'm gonna show you how to make brown real quick, because I don't want you to have to go out and buy every color. So there's red, here's blue, blue and red make purple, and the other primary color, which is yellow. Now mine's looking a little green because I put more blue than I did red, so I'm gonna have to go back and get some more red. Just kind of like a science, kind of till you get it the right combination of the 3 colors. Ah, I'm getting there now. Nice dark umber brown. Okay, so now I can use that and I can paint my table. Again, go with the grain. How was the table made? Think about it. How was it made? I tried woodworking once in college as part, I had to take it in architecture school. I wasn't too good at woodworking. Not too good. But I understand why they made me take it. Not only because I had to build models, but because you get to appreciate the strength of the wood and how it would support structures, and that there's a direction of the grain. There's just strength in the wood. I mean, you learn so much by doing. Okay, so there's my table. Now I want the edge of the table to be a little bit darker or a little bit lighter, depending on where your light's coming from. So I'm gonna add a little more purpley. I'm gonna make more brown, I ran out. Get a little bit darker. And that's going to be the edge of my table. You can always know who you are, but it's fun if you even title your work. Like you want to call this the yellow room or the fish swim, whatever you want to call it. It'd be fun to see how everybody interprets the same art lesson. As you can see, I could do this 1,000 times and it's going to look different. In fact, I want to show you a couple of different renditions. So this happens to be my blue room. And of course, this one I put a window in with the moon. So every time you do it, it can look very, very different. And then I decided to do a close-up of the table. And there's motion going on. And I think some of you might have taken this acrylic class with me, but I wanted to make the glass look like it was falling off, like Dr. Seuss's trying to stack things on top of one another and things started to fall. So I have several bowls painted, but they obviously, it's one bowl that I'm trying to show you what happens when it starts to move and fall. Yeah, maybe I'll make that one into a piece of fiber art, probably. Okay, I think it's fun when you study different types of art, even if you're not a watercolorist, because it just helps you come up with ideas for your next project. Because you are drawing, you are painting, you're thinking about color and placement of objects. And I just think there's never a wrong way to create. So, all right, so I do have a second layer on my entire background except for the floor. So I'm going to go down here to the floor, and I think I'm going to dirty it up a little bit. I'm going to paint some planks in my floor, like some little, like little dashes or bricks or elongated planks. I'm using the fat end of my brush. I'm kind of pushing down a little bit harder to create this nice rectangle shape. As I get closer to the table, my rectangle shapes are going to get skinnier because it's further away. So you can see right now, they're getting a little bit skinnier. Oh, and maybe we'll stagger them because all planks don't line up. You want to have kind of them to be jiggy-jagged so that in expansion and contraction, you don't have something breaking along one line. So just kind of, and plus look at the pattern we're creating. Pattern can be so fun in your artwork. It is one of the elements of design. Don't be afraid of it. It doesn't have to be everything be solid. When you're doing animals, you're having texture or pattern. Okay, now I'm getting skinnier with my lines, barely hitting it with the point of my number 6 watercolor brush. You can do a lot with a number 6. That's kind of my go-to piece of brush, because I can make really thin lines and I can make some fat lines. Okay, so getting all my little floor going there with some pattern, and I love how blue on top of blue, I'm using the same blue that I used the first time, but when you put it, the second blue on top of the first blue, it gets darker. That's just the nature of watercolor. And you want to start light because you cannot erase or paint over it. So it's a good thing we started off light. So what if we didn't even like where we were going with this? Maybe we could change it into a green floor or a brown floor, because blue is in both of those colors. Okay, now I've got my blue, and I'm going to come back and put some brown into the floor later, but at least I've got that drying right now. All right, I'm going to go back to the fish bowl because I've got part of the table showing through the fish bowl. So I need to have a muddy brown, but muddy light brown, right? I don't want a dark brown. So I got to use the same brown I was using before, but I got to water it down a little bit. So I could take my spray bottle if I wanted to, or just dip your brush in the yucky water that you've already got going there. You can test it too. If you need to test it on another strip of watercolor paper or on a napkin just to see what you just created before you put it down, you could do that. All right, so I'm going to put this now in my fish bowl. It's a little bit lighter colored than the table itself. I have to move from the floor and go somewhere else. I can't stay in the same spot. I need time for the water to absorb. So that's what I mean. You kind of got to move around the painting. Okay, so I've got the table showing in there. I'm going to go do my wall now. Another little coat of watered down yellow in my fish bowl. It needs another pass. Oh, I bet this is looking good. Yes, I have blue lines in my bowl because I drew with a blue pencil. So just bear with me on that. I'll have to make a happy accident with it. All right, I'm going to put a little red down there because I had a sliver of red wall. Okay. And while I've got the red out, I think I'm going to put some red in my hearts because I can. You know, in 1908, 1910, I'm sure that fashion was all the rage, coming up with new ways to decorate your home and clothing style. Paris was really on the scene for all of that. So maybe he was affected by what was going on. And then, of course, the war happened, and that took everything away. And then he ends up getting crippled later in his life, right? And his nurse finds whatever she can find because paint becomes a commodity. And so she brings home just torn up pieces of what looked like construction paper, but it's probably from feed bags and whatever war posters were on the street. And she'd bring them home and he would cut up pieces and make those heart shapes and make fish shapes. In fact, he used his fishing pole to draw on the ceiling. You have to go read about him. It's really quite interesting. But he definitely was confined to his bed in his later years and had to do more collage work by just cutting out shapes. Okay, so we have our second pass on just about everything except the table. So I'm going to add a little bit more brown, muddy up my table a little bit more like it's been aged. Maybe I won't put brown everywhere the second time, just like planks of wood, giving it texture. Maybe I'll put a little purple in there, some stains, some wine stains on my table. Okay. Okay, we haven't touched black yet, so I haven't put black on the walls or the kitty cat or the chair. That's going to come last. So let's do some table legs. And I'm just going to check to make sure that my floor is for the most part dry. I'm going to dab at it just to see, because I'd hate for brown to go running everywhere. But even if it does run everywhere, like here, oh, it could just be a stain on the little flattened pelly, you know, or there's stuff on the wall, or I've got a scuff on the floor. Don't try to be so perfect with watercolor. In fact, there's no perfect in art. None. All right, I'm gonna make up some brown table legs. So I gotta get some blue. I gotta get some red, which makes purple, but I need to add a little yellow. If you contaminate your colors, like you get green in your yellow, you can quickly fix that by just dabbing with your napkin into the cake. These are called cakes. When they dry, they're like little pieces of cakes. Okay, I've got a good brown I like. And I'm going to draw some table legs. I'm going to draw 3 legs. It's a 3-legged table. So I'm going to have one in the middle that's short, one short leg because it's far away. They're really all the same size, but something that's further away is shorter. So there's my short leg. Make him a little bit fatter. And he's picking up some of the blue from behind because brown is made with blue. That's okay. All right, so I got one short leg in the middle. Now I'm going to do 2 outside legs. So I'm going to do one here. I'm going to go about a 1/2 inch in and just do a little leg. But this time it's going to be a longer little leg. So it's going to be longer than the first one. So maybe this one's about 2.5 inches and that was only 1.5 inches. So 1 inch longer for the table leg. And let's do it over here. Same one. And stop it right at the same height as the other one. And I still got brown on my brush, so I'm going to do another layer on the edge, like that. All right. Now I also have these little cross supports inside of my table just for fun. So I'm going to draw those as just some more texture, something else in the room, because the room's all about what's in the room, right? I'm going to draw a little angled line. It looks like a 30-60 and do another 30-60 over here. I don't care if it starts to bleed a little bit. It's a rugged table. And you know what? I'm going to make another one going straight across. Yeah, I like that better than I did before. So it looks like the 3 little cross members holding the 3 legs. Yep. Any questions, just let me know. We still got a good 15 minutes that we can do all of our details. Okay, I'm going to go back to Mr. Fishbowl because I want to give the fish a little shadow or movement so they don't just look like floating dead things. I don't know. They just don't look like they're moving or doing anything. So I love purple as a shadow. The opposite of orange is blue, if you got your color wheel out. So I'm actually going to make up a little mixture. So I've got my orange from the fish. I've got a little tiny bit of blue. And look, it looks like dirty water, right? That's what happens when you mix 2 opposites, and it's fabulous. Don't let it make you go, ooh, gross, looks like baby stuff or whatever, baby food, because it actually will work to your advantage. So I've got blue and orange mixed together, and I'm going to use this as kind of my little, oops, I got a little pool of water. Let me dab that up first. If your painting's really wet right now, and after we take a little break or you go have lunch after we're done and you come back, it will be totally dry and you can put that next layer on. You can also watch this on YouTube tomorrow or later this evening. It might be up, and you can catch any parts that you might have missed. All right, so I'm just going to make some little movement lines, like he was swishing around, like the water was moving. So you see that, but I want to have a little purple in there too. I'm going to put a little purple, because I just feel like purple, it makes a nice little shadow from blue and red. Dirty up my water a little bit. Okay. Usually when I stop talking, it means I'm moving into my right brain. This is hard when I'm trying to paint and teach at the same time, because you're using both parts. Your speech lives in your left side. So you have to be thinking about what you're saying, and then your creative side is in the other side of your brain. So I'm going to have another heart kind of peeking in that I didn't draw before. I just think it needs that because I have this big gap right here. See, this is when you start to notice things that you can change about your art or fix it a little bit as you move along. Okay, so I think I have, for the most part, everything blocked in that I like. I might do a little bit of bluish purple. You know, water is not blue. It's just reflecting a little bit of blue, reflecting light and other colors around us. Okay, I am now going to get my black out, which I don't normally do. If you took one of my other classes, like the Asian art, I believe we used India ink. You can go back and review that lesson or get some India ink. India ink will be a blacker, more black, because blacker's not a word, a black than using the black out of your watercolor pan. The one that comes out of the watercolor pan is usually kind of browny black, like an earthy black. It's fine for what we're doing here today. Okay, don't put black anywhere where it's still wet. So I'm going to move over here to my wall because I know this is dry. And I am barely going to touch it with my number 6. Barely. I mean, just barely. Black is a very dominant, it's not even a color, absence of light, just takes over. So a little goes a long way. Matisse used it in his work, so that's why I'm using it today. I don't typically, in my work, use black, but I do outline things. I just use darker colors. Well, that's really making it come together. I can't wait to see yours. I know it's going to be hard for us to show it at the end because you're working in watercolor, but if you can, without destroying your piece, I would love to see it and then share it on the gallery. Okay, now I'm going to outline the hearts. I'm barely using much water on the brush. I don't want it to be so watery. I really want it to be about the tint. Okay, black on top of yellow is going to look green, just so you know. It's not that your black is contaminated. Oh, I really like that. If you get too much water, just blot it off with your paper towel. I'm going around all my little heart shapes. This would be a fun one to make a little greeting card for someone, you know? You could make up all kinds of stories with your fish and your kitty cat. All right, so I'm going around those little shapes. And now I'm going to use the black to go under the underside of the bowl rim. Very thin line under the bowl's rim. Now I'm going to do it right on this side of the bowl's rim, but I've got a really wet heart right there, so I need to be very careful. Okay. Put some underneath the lazy C on the table. Anywhere where it's not wet. If it is still wet, don't use it. It will muddy up all your crispy clear. Okay, I'm ready to draw a little kitty cat over here. I think he's too cute. All right, how do we do a kitty cat? So we're going to use the fat part of the brush to make an oval. Or you could draw yourself an oval and then fill it in. So I could make a big oval and fill it in with the fat part of my brush. So there's his body, and he is just wanting to get up on that table. And then he's going to have a circle head. And of course he has some pointy ears. And he's got some legs. And he has a tail. Big sweeping tail. All right, how do we draw the chair? Oh my gosh. Okay, so the chair is it looks like it's hard, but it's not that hard. So I'm going to put a triangle outside of the table. That's going to be the seat. Well, it looks like a triangle, but it's going to be more like a trapezoid. And I'm going to fill that in. There's my little seat of my chair sitting right there. And the chair has legs, so I'm going to have a back leg to the chair. And I'm going to have a front leg to the chair. The front leg is going to be longer than the back leg. Just like that. And I'm going to have a back to my chair. We're just going to make it an open back chair because we still want to see that beautiful background. And we'll make it like a Charles Rainey McIntyre chair. We'll make it tall. He would have been the same time period. All the decorative arts. He's one of my favorite architects. Okay, so there is our rectangle back to the chair. That's pretty fun. And let's just give the back of the chair some rungs, some stripes to rest your back. Very simple chair. Adding all these little cute little details to the picture. Okay, and then I want to give the chair a couple of little side supports. I'm not using much water. I'm just dipping my brush into the tiny little well so that I can control my details as much as I can. And I'm going to put a little arch underneath my chair. I'm going to put a front piece of wood to the front of my chair right there. And I'm going to have a back brace to the back. Just like that. Just a simple little chair sitting at the table. Now I'm going to outline my table with the same black since it's dry now. I'm going to put some black around the rim of the outside rim of the table, not the inside rim of the table. The things that are touching air, so that would be the outside. Don't put it in the inside. And I'm going to put some down here that's touching air. And my table legs went a little wonky. They look like they got wheels on them. That's kind of cool. Kind of like that. Okay, so, and I don't need to add any more black down there. Is there anything else? Oh, I might put some little black along the baseboard because they haven't been cleaned in a while. Black down there. And along the back wall. And I think we're almost ready to sign it. Maybe you could put a little black along the edge of your fishbowl, touching a little air. Yeah, yeah. And you could put a couple little dabs of dirt or shadows on your floor. Very nice. All right, I'm going to sign my name. G-O-L-E-Y. And I'm going to see if I can see some of your work. And that is a Matisse. And when you pull the tape, you have a nice little drawing. Hopefully you can join us on Thursday night, 5:45. We are going to do trees looking up. So we're going to do another perspective. And I'm going to show you what it is. So it's as if you were up in the aspen or the birch trees and you're laying down in the middle of a mountainous field and you can see the tippy tops of all of the trees. So I think that's going to be really fun. We'll have a point in the middle of the page and be looking up. Yeah, so that's what that's going to be at 5:45. I'm going to be using acrylic paint for that. And there's your point in there and all of your trees pointing to the sky. And if you do it in watercolor, that's fine, but I'm going to be standing up and doing it in acrylic. Here's one done in watercolor. So that's really fun. And then if you can join me Saturday morning, 9 o'clock, you will be doing a big palm tree. Oh, very fun. So trees it is. That's what's coming up. We go from fish bowls to trees. So I'm going to tilt my I'm going to tilt my camera back up so you guys can. Or actually, I'll leave it sitting like this, and I'll just look into my iPad, and then you can show me your work. Anybody want to share? Okay. She can unmute you, or you can unmute yourself so I can see what you got going.